In the latest Gaza war, there was a woman who had just lost her husband to a car accident. And about a month after her husband died, her son got called into battle in Gaza. And she was going out of her mind. She didn't want her son to go. She lost her husband. But what was she going to do? The Israeli army called, and she was a patriot, and she believed her son should serve the army, and he went into battle. And the worst thing happened. About a week into a battle, the army calls her in the middle of the night and says, "We have bad news. Your son was killed." And she breaks down. That's it. Her husband dying was close. When her son died, it was it. And she basically said, "I'm done living." She gave up everything, and she locked herself in her apartment for months. She has another daughter, a son and a daughter. Her daughter called her. She said, "Ma, come out. Ima, come out. I'm not coming out. Ima, I have children. You have grandchildren. They miss their savta." She goes, "I'm not coming out. I'm not living. God doesn't love me. I'm out. I'm out." No. Lock the door. A week, 5 weeks, 6 weeks, 2 months. You can't blame her. 2 months later, one of her friends said to her, "Listen, there's a big rabbi coming to town. Just listen to the class." She goes, "I'm not listening to rabbis. I'm not doing anything. I'm living my life in this house with the lights off forever." She goes, "Please, come to the class." She comes to the class, and the rabbi speaks about God being in your life. And she's like half nodding through it. She comes home that night, and she sits down in her house, and she looks up to heaven. She says, "God, you took my husband, and you took my son. I understand we make sacrifices for this land. I get that. But I want to know that my son is okay." Her son's name was Dvir. "I want to know that I understand that he died, and he died for you and for your nation, and I'm okay with that. That's what happens when you send your kids into the army. You take that risk. But I want to know that my Dvir is okay. And here's the deal I make with you, God. You can't do this, but you did. I'll know that you're taking care of him, and I'll be okay with it. But I want to give my Dvir one more hug. I want my Dvir for one more hug. You give me a hug with my Dvir, I'm good." She said that to him. Okay. True story. This is going on. The lady spoke in Toronto. 2 weeks later, she has a call from her daughter. She says, "Ima, it's almost Tu B'Shvat. There's a Tu B'Shvat get-together. You know, in Israel, they have the fruits and the whole deal. You have 2 grandkids. They missed their savta. Come on, please." She goes, "Okay. I'll come to the Tu B'Shvat get-together." She goes to some area, and they have nuts, and the kids are playing. It's gorgeous. It's in Israel, the harvest. It's awesome. Kids are running around. And she walks over, and she's sitting around, and she's a nursery school teacher. So when you're a nursery school teacher, kids come to you. You know what I'm talking about? Any nursery school teacher, you know what I'm talking about? Like the little moras are like magnets for kids. You know what I'm talking about? You could have like a mora somewhere, and like every kid's like, mora, 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 mora. You know what I'm talking about? That's what moras are. God bless them. They're the greatest people in our nation. Somehow, moras and Candymen are like the greatest people we have. So she's a mora. She takes care of little kids. She used to before she quit. So some little 2-year-old comes running over and starts like hanging out on her leg. And she's like, "Who's this kid?" So she's like playing with him a little bit, and all of a sudden, like, you know, the mom comes over to like try to pull the kid away, and the kid won't go, and she's playing with him, and she's like, "Oh, it's okay, I'm a mora, I'm okay." And she's seeing her grandkids in the distance, and this little kid's literally attached to the leg, and this mom looks like she just can't get it together. This poor mom looks like she's totally overwhelmed. She's got a kid in her little pouch, and the kid is just crying and screaming and snotty and crying and losing it. And her 2-year-old attacking some stranger, and the mom is like pulling her hair out, and she's telling this kid, "Get off her leg, leave the geveret alone," and he's just hanging out there, and she goes, it's okay, and she's losing it, and she goes, and the mom goes, "Listen, give me the crying baby, I'm a savta, I've done this before, you handle the kid wants a toy or something, a carob tree, I don't know what they want." So she takes out the baby, and she hands it to this woman. And the second she hands it to this woman, the baby stops crying. Like as if the grandmothers have that touch. She's a Bobby, Safta, grandma, wherever you are. And she's just rocking, and the kid's like Googling at her, and she's like, And the mom looks, she goes, "You know, I feel like the kid likes you better than me." And she takes care of this 2-year-old, and she's cooing him, and she goes, well, what's his name? And the mom goes, his name is Dvir. She goes, Dvir? That was her son's name who died. She goes, Dvir? What a strange name. Why would you name him Dvir? And she says, well, I'll tell you, it's a crazy story. When I was pregnant with him a few months ago, the doctor called and said they got some tests back, and he was going to come out, if alive at all. Incredible. It would have been a disaster. They weren't sure if he'd make it, if he was a viable fetus, and if he was born, he would be born with so many complications he'd spend the rest of his life in a hospital. And I was broken. And I went home that night and I prayed to Hashem and I said, Hashem, please, I want to raise the kid, make him healthy. And that night I saw on television that there was in the Gaza war a casualty of war. There was a man named Dvir who just died. And I said, Hashem, if he comes out healthy, I'm going to name him Dvir in memory of that soldier. And this mom is giving her Dvir one last hug. You see, if this would happen once, it'd be cool. I did a video 2 weeks ago about Thank You Hashem. Some of you may have seen this before. I got a hat. You know what's amazing? I did this thing. I missed my friend's wedding, and I spent the whole day saying Thank You Hashem, and at night I got a package. Can I tell you something amazing? Since that video went out, I think I got 100 calls and texts from people with their own story of Hashem just showing up. Their own little Dvir stories. You know why? Because when there's a big story out there, everybody knows. But we don't know of the little stories. They don't make it to the news. Now, Instagram, apparently it does. It's a new thing. So we think that God is big. And we never meet enough people to get everyone in the room so we can all realize that Hashem's not big. Hashem is also right with us. All of our little mices or stories, they never make it. So we don't know that millions of people have their Dvir stories. Because God is not just Elokeinu. He is Echad. He's Bekerev Haaretz. He is mine and your dad. And can I tell you something? As much as you think you're not worthy of him, that's not how parenting works. If you have Rachmanis on your children, you can guarantee God has more mercy on you. And maybe our job in this world is to stand up and to start to look for him. To stop waiting for some major miracle to be inspired and to start seeing him in everything that we're doing. Maybe our job is to see God in our regular lives and to point him out and to feel his embrace